Let me share my screen so that we can get to it. Why are you trying to do? Okay, please confirm that you can see my screen. Please confirm that you can see my screen. Okay, cool, cool. All right. So, like I said before, we'll be shuttling two IDEs. The first one is our learning tool, which is Anaconda. Then the second one is what they call, what I said is Visual Studio Code. And I told you guys that you should go ahead and actually download the Visual Studio Code and download some extensions. Okay, so before we go into Visual Studio Code, there's something I need to explain. We've looked at a lot of things. We've looked at a lot of things, and we've gone quite the distance. There are still a lot of smaller details, but we don't need to go into that now. You could always do research on other things. For example, we could look at things like list comprehension. We could look at things like decorators, look at things like generators and the likes in Python. But the ones that we have looked at are the basic things. Now we've also looked at functions. I told you that there are two kinds of functions. Now I said we have the function does not take in that does not take in any variable, while we have functions that take in variables. I told you that a function that takes in variable, for you to call that function, you must actually impute those variables. Now today is an interesting day because we are going to be looking at a very important library for our lives. It's very important, especially those of us in the analytics world, finance, analytics, engineering, machine learning, artificial intelligence. These are what we are going to look at now is what we use basically. Okay, give me a minute. Hold on, please. I'm trying to. Okay, so give me a minute. Give me a minute. I need to switch over. Okay, so sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. All right. So let's move on to and there's my anaconda. Okay, this is what I have presently. Now we are going to want to look at something very interesting, something quite simple anyway. We want to look at what they call pandas. Now, what to look at what they call pandas. Now, what is pandas? Now, you guys must have seen. You guys don't. You guys must have seen several times where you will hear about machine learning people talking about using a particular data set or something to perform a particular operation. For example, if you are given an Excel sheet of say 1 million rows and you are told, oh yeah, go and analyze it, what will you do? Do you start writing Excel functions and start dragging to 1 million rows? Automatically, if your system is not good enough, it will crash. Now, Python is one of the libraries that you can use in reading Excel and turning Excel into something called a data frame. Now, when you turn Excel into a data frame, you can perform whatever task that you want on it. Now, please hold on, please give me a minute. Question, don't make that boy shout now. Oh, carry him. Carry him. Hello? Hello, are we still there, please? Sorry about that. Are we still there? Please, are we still there? Please
Yes,
confirm.
yes,
Oh, okay, wonderful. All right, so now, remember when we were
yes.
okay, good. Now, when we were checking if we had pandas or if we had Python on our system, what we did was we went to what I call CMD. Do you remember the CMD? That's command prompt. Then we typed Python space dash dash version. to see what version of Python that we have. Now, for us, if we've already installed Python on our system and we want to start using pandas, which is one of the libraries in Python, what we simply need to do is we need to open our command prompt, or in my case, terminal. This is my terminal. Are we there? Are we there? I hope you guys can see my terminal.
Yes.
Okay, now what I'll do here is I'll simply type, now I first type my Python to confirm that I still have my Python installed. Have you seen that? I have Python version 3.7.3 basically, and what I want to use is I want to use what they call pandas. I already have it on my own laptop, which means for me to install any Python package, pandas is a Python package. Now for me to install any Python package, what I simply need to type is pip. Are you there? I need to type pip install, then the name of the package, which is pandas. Have you seen that? Okay. Now I need to type pip space install space pandas. Now I want to work with pandas, so I need the pandas package installed. Now this is one way to install it. Now if you do not know the pip installation pattern for that particular package you want to install, simply go to Google. Once you know the name of the package, simply just type pandas installation. Then it will give you see something called pypy.org. Now click on pypy.org. Now you see something like this. It will take you to a page like this. You can also use this for documentation purpose. You can always read through this to see exactly what that package is about. Then you see a button here called copy to clipboard. Click it, it will copy it. Then go back to your terminal. Let's say I've not installed this. I can just press Ctrl V. You see that it has pasted the installation pattern for that particular package, which is pandas. I simply press enter. Now, if you do not have pandas already installed on your system, now most of you will already have it because you already installed Anaconda. Anaconda distribution already comes with pandas. Please, hope we are getting somewhere. We've not started coding anything. I'm just showing you exactly what we are going to be working with today. Now, pandas is a package that we are going to be working with. And before we can use pandas package, we need to install pandas on our local system, which is our PC. Now, for you guys, I'm sure a lot of people here are using a Windows system. Now, what you do is go to your command prompt, just type CMD in your search, command prompt will come up, open your command prompt, then go to pypy.org or just Google pandas installation. Click on the link that takes you to pypy.org, copy the link on that website. You see a copy to clipboard here, directly beside it, or you can just copy like this. You can just copy like Ctrl C, whatever you want, but it's preferable you do this so that you do not miss anyone out. This will copy this, then you go to your command prompt, in my case terminal, then paste it like this, Ctrl V, then click enter. You see, mine is showing requirements already satisfied, which means I already have pandas. One, because I installed Anaconda, and because it is something that I use on a daily basis at work in order to run scripts. So I have already installed it intentionally on my system. I even have virtual environments that already have pandas installed there because I use it. Is there a new person or a question? Okay. Now what I said is this. We want to start looking at Python packages. Now the first package, the most important package I think, basically, are the ones we are going to look at now, which are Python, pandas, NumPy, and Matplotlib. Now, for pandas, the first thing you need to do is to know that the name of what you want to install is pandas. Pandas. That's the name. Now, we want to install it. Just go to Google. Type pandas installation. Type enter. It will give you a Google page. Now, locate the one that is on pypy.org. You see something like this, pypy.org. click on pypy.org. It will bring you to a page like this. The name of the package you want to install will be on top. You see here I have pandas 1.1.2. Then click on copy. When you copy it, you simply go to your command prompt or terminal. Then Ctrl V, paste it there, type enter. If you do not have Python installed on your PC, it will not run. It will not run. But if you have Python installed on your PC and doing exactly what I have told you to do, it will run. If you already have it in your, most of you would already have it because you have installed Python and you have installed Anaconda. So long as you've installed Anaconda, automatically you already have pandas because Anaconda comes with pandas. Hope we've made sense. Can I move on? Can I move on, please? If you have any question, please. You don't have it, then install it. If you don't have it, please install it. You can always go there. It's a very small package. It won't take a lot of your MB. Now let's move on. Now let's go back to our Jupyter notebook. Now since I already have pandas installed on my laptop, now to call on pandas, the convention is this. You simply, to call any package whatsoever, you can use, there's a keyword called from. There's a keyword called import. So what I want to do is, I want to import the entire pandas package as a package into my notebook. So what I need to do is, I simply type import pandas as PD. Now, you will notice when I ran that piece of code, it did not give me error because I already have pandas installed. Or, see what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a new notebook. Better. I think I'll just create a new notebook. Let me create a new notebook. Let's name this. Let me just save it as. Let me save it as. Well, let me rename. Let's call this pandas underscore lecture. Okay, so I've created a pandas underscore lecture so that we don't overcrowd this particular notebook. So I'm simply going to paste this here. Okay. No module name pandas. Okay. Sorry. Okay, it's working here and it's not working here. I wonder why anyway. Okay, maybe I would have to start the kernel or something. Oh. Okay, let's move on. Now let's go to, this is where we are. Now we have imported pandas as PD. I don't want to waste time in trying to debug that particular error. Now, I have said, what I simply said here is, I said import pandas. Pandas is a library or a package. And I said import it as PD, which means instead of, if I say import pandas, every time I want to use anything from the pandas package, I would always type pandas dot. But if I have imported pandas as PD, every time I want to use anything from the pandas package, all I need to do is I simply type pd dot. Does it make any sense? Does it make any sense? Give me a minute, please. Okay, let me see. If you have any question, please ask. Okay. So give me a minute, please. Trying to. Okay, now, like I was saying before, I told you that pandas uses what they call a data frame. Pandas uses what they call a data frame. Okay, now we are going to create a pandas data frame here. Now, what we want to do basically is this. We want a situation whereby we want to load a data into pandas data frame directly before we start to use Excel. Now let's create a data frame. To create a data frame, you can use any keyword. That means you are declaring it as a variable. You can simply say df, which is data frame. It could be anything, like I said, like I always say. PD dot. You notice here I am using PD, but I'm not saying pandas. Now remember when I was importing pandas. Okay, remember when I was importing pandas? I imported pandas as PD. Now I want to call on pandas. Instead of using pandas dot, I will simply say PD dot, because I've said I could use Y here, I could use Z here, I could use anything. But for convention, for in the profession, it's mostly PD people use. Almost everybody uses PD. So you simply say PD dot data frame. Have you seen what I'm doing? Now, PD dot data frame. I'll simply do this. Let's say name. I will explain what I'm doing here, please. Please code along anyway. Please, if you already have pandas installed, you can code along with me. It's very important at this stage of our learning. Okay, now name. The name we are using is, let's say we have the first name is Seun Ade. Oh, sorry, I need to do this. Ade Afis let's stick with, okay, let's use more than 5 so that it will even help us explain some things. Then we have Kunle, just any name. These are just random names. It's not like it has to be this particular order. Then you have Toyin. Then you have Chukuma. Then you have Chioma. Not Davido's Chioma. Okay, then comma. Do you know who can tell me exactly what we are doing here? What I just created here. Do you have any idea what I just created here? We've looked at it before. Who has any idea what I just created here? What I'm typing here? Out of the data types, what am I typing exactly? Hello? Who has any idea what I'm typing here? This is what I'm typing. What does it look like? What data type does it look like, please? So that we can flow, please. Thank you. Kayode has answered. This is a dictionary. This is a dictionary of key, but the values are a list. So I have a dictionary whose values are a list. Now let's move on. Now let's say I want to know their ages. Now their age is another list. Let's say the ages are 22, 35, 67. I don't know what their ages are. 46, 34. How many names are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we have 16. Then we have 29. This is not where we are going to. Please don't get it twisted. This is just a means to an end. Then we have their sex. Then we have their sex. This is just sample data. Please don't take it to heart. Then we have male. Then we have male. Then we have female. Let me just copy this so that we don't waste time. Then we have female. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then we have female. Now, I've created a dictionary of 3 elements, basically. I've created a dictionary with name. I've created a dictionary with name, age, and sex. And I'm telling pandas that turn this dictionary into a data frame. Turn it into a data frame for me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm simply going to say Now, I'm simply going to say df. Let's just call df. Or print df. Why are you not doing this now? This Anaconda description is giving me a headache. Sorry. I started this nonsense again. I wonder why. Sorry, please. It's just okay. That's one. So it's just delaying. I don't like delays. So now, if you see here, I have created a dictionary of name. I said the names I have are Sheun, Ade, Afiz, Kunle, Toyin, Chukuma, and Chioma. Now, I created age, I created sex. Now, you see what it has done here. It has created a data frame. Now, the data frame is that it's saying there's a name, which is the title, there's an age, which is another title, then there's sex. Now, the first name is this, the age of the person is 22, the sex of the person is male. Now, this here is a keyword, which means the moment you import pandas as PD into your work, data frame becomes a keyword because you have imported everything and all the keywords from that particular package. Remember, Python pandas rather is a package. Now, what if I just wanted to see only a particular column in my data frame? Please, if you have any question, we are going to use this a lot. Please, if you have any question, ask. It's very important. Virtually all our work in Excel we will be using pandas. All the work we'll be doing with Excel, we'll be using pandas. If you have any question, please ask. If you do not, say okay, let's go on. Type okay, please. Type okay. Oh, okay, wonderful. All right, let's move on. Now, the next thing is, what if I want to look at just one particular column in this data frame? All I simply need to type. Today we are going to go for 1 hour 30 minutes, not 1 hour, because we have a lot to cover. I need to finish this so that we can go into actual work today. So now, if I needed a particular, just one column in my pandas, now each column has a name. Now the first column where you see those numbers is called the index column. It doesn't have a title. Now the second column, we stated the column as name. We are saying the names are this. We said that the second column is name, third column is age, fourth column is sex. Now the first column we did not create. It is created automatically for us to reference our data. Now what we want is, let's say we want to pick out age from this data frame. So what we need to do is just type df. Are you seeing that? df open brackets, square bracket, age. What's the name of our column? Age. Now what we do is shift enter. Have you seen that? It has only given us the details concerning age. You see, it has brought out only age. We can now use that detail of the age to do whatever we want to do. We can use this for whatever we want to do. Now, whenever we use this, now this is called a data frame. Python also works with what they call series. Now let me explain the structure, data structure. Now if you are working with Python, you can call a data frame like this. Now a data frame is made up of series and scalar. I'm sure we all did matrices in school. Do we still remember what a scalar is? Now you know a matrix is simply a group of, how do I put it? You have 2 by 1 matrix, you have 3 by 2 matrix, you have 3 by 3 matrix, you have 4 by 4 matrix. But once you have a 1 by 4, maybe 1 column and no row, then it becomes a what? A scalar. So a matrix is made, a data, what do they call it? Pandas is made up of, let's keep coming up. Now pandas is made up of data frame, which is the full structure of your data. Then it has what they call a series. Then in each of those series, we have what they call a scalar. Now in this case, what we have created here is not a data frame. What we have created here is a series. What we have created here is called a series. It is no longer a data frame. Because you see here, he wrote 0, 22, index 1 is 35, index 2 is 67, 3, and like that. Then he said the name is age, and the data type is int 64. That's 64-bit integer. That means he's simply telling us that it is an integer. But if we had a float in there to tell us that it is an integer, or whether it is an integer or a float. Now let's move on. Now let's say, but what if we wanted to create a series from scratch? Let's assume we wanted to create a series of people's ages. Now we can simply say this: ages equals PD. Remember the PD we imported the other time. Dot series. Now let's say the ages are 22, 35, 12, 24, 89, and 77. Now we need to state the name of our series. We can simply say, we'll now type, this is a keyword, name equals ages. Then we do this. Then we now say, we now call the ages. Have you seen that? You see that you can create a series object. That's a series of objects from a data frame, or you can create a series object from scratch. You can create a series object from a data frame, or you can create a series object from scratch. Now, Python series objects do not have column labels, unlike pandas. Unlike data frame. You notice in this data frame, you have name, age, and sex. But in series objects, they didn't state anything on top. It doesn't have a column name. It is simply just empty. It doesn't have a what do they call it? It does not have a column name, rather. That's what I meant. Now, what if you wanted to find the maximum number in this particular series? You can simply say that ages dot max. Now you notice 89 is the maximum, so you can find 89. How is this useful? What if you had an Excel sheet that has a lot of rows, and you want to find, okay, for example, if you have your customer sheet and you want to know which customer paid us the highest amount of money this particular year, which customer paid us the highest amount of money, you can just call up your Excel sheet, then find the column on which their payment is located, then locate that particular row where you have the highest amount, then locate it to the customer. We'll get there bit by bit. Now, if you are interested in some basic statistics based on your series object, remember now I am not using data frame, I am using series. Now, based on your series object, you want to get some basic information. You can simply say df dot describe. Now you see here, it has given us a lot of information. Now, the only thing it can describe is the age, because that's the only data frame with integers, with numbers. It cannot describe the other ones. It can mostly describe age. Now, age count is, now the count, we have 7 different lines in age. We have the total mean of the ages is 35.57. The standard deviation is 16.88. The minimum is 16 years. The 25% quartile. The quartile is 25.5. The is it percentile? Then this is the midpoint, which is like the median. Then we have the 75th percentile. Then we have the max. This is just basic data that you can get from a data frame. You see, this is looking like something that is more useful for day-to-day work in the office, basically. Now, another thing is this. Okay. Now, what if we wanted to, most of the time, what we will be working with, we will not have to create a dictionary like this and have to write name. Imagine, what if you had 5,000 names? Would you start calling up these names one by one? No, you don't have to. You basically do not have to. But if you want to call data, most of the data you'll be working with is in Excel format, which means that what you'll be working with is simply an Excel sheet that you need to work on. Now, you'll notice in my folder here, my project folder, I have a data called Titanic dataset .csv. Now in pandas, I can call that particular dataset. That dataset has 1,310 rows. It has 1,310 rows, which means I will call that data now, and we will use that data from here going forward. We are no longer going to be calling data like this, Sheun, Ade, Hafiz. No, we'll be calling Excel data. Then we'll be making sense of that data. Now, to call data from Excel sheet, this is for CSV. But if we are going to use actual Excel, XLSS kind of file, there's a different format for that, but we'll start with this. Now, let's say we want to call, this is called Titanic. This simply details of every person on board the Titanic when it sank. It's free online. It's a free data set online that you can use. Most data scientists use it for predictive analysis. Equals to pd.read CSV. Now the CSV I want to read is this. This is the CSV I want to read. Titanic data sets .csv. Have you seen what I else did? Now, I've introduced a new keyword. You know, since we started, I've introduced multiple keywords. The first one is import pandas as PD. The second one is data frame is equal to panda, that's PD, dot data frame. We created the data frame manually. Now, we now said print df, or we can just call df. Then dfh creates a series based on the column you have created. I told you series do not have a column name. Then I said ages is equal to PD. I created series from scratch instead of calling it from a data frame. The next thing I introduced is I introduced what they call marks. There's also min, there's also count. There are so many functions you can do with data frames. Then I said describe. Describe just gives you basic information concerning your data frame. Now in this case, telling us that the count is this and all that. Now I've introduced a new one. I told you most times you will not need to call your data and you not need to type your data manually. Your data will be in the form of Excel, which means to read an Excel CSV file, you need to write pd.read_CSV. Then you write the name of that file, the name of the file that you want to read. Or most times I prefer to put my file in the same folder as my Python file, so that I don't need to start doing things like path. But in order to know about path, you can also always Google how to write path in Mac, how to write path in Windows. Now this is it. Now I've created, automatically this has been created for me. Now what I need to do is, I can simply say that, I can just call Titanic. You see what happens. Have you seen what happens? Now Titanic has been created. You see here, all the data in my Excel file, have been copied into this particular data frame. You see, I have a data frame. Now, the first element of my data frame is called passenger class. Passenger class. This is telling us, did the passenger survive or the passenger did not survive? This is the name of the passenger. This is the sex of the passenger. This is the age of the passenger. You notice it converts the age into a float. This is, I don't know what this is. I just copied the data set. Okay, this is the ticket amount. That's ticket number. This is the fare. This is the amount the person paid. This is the cabin the person entered. This is boat. The boat that the person escaped in. And so many. This is the address of that particular passenger. Now, let's work with this. Now, you notice the data set is very large. Imagine if you were working with Excel and you were asked to do something with it, and it's something that you do on a weekly basis. It means that every time you call the Excel, you have to write a formula every time. That's what Python saves you a bit from. All you need to do is write a script. The data is the same format every week. Just write a script. Every time that data comes in, you just perform the same operation on that data with that particular script. Just rename the data. Then automatically you give something else. There's always an output that you are looking at from that particular data. Do we have? No, Sheon, no, not all must be CSV. You can read normal, you can even read most times. No, it must be an Excel file. It must be an Excel file. It could be CSV, it could be normal Excel workbook. It could be CSV or it could be normal Excel workbook. If it is the normal Excel workbook, then there's a particular format which we will still look at anyway. But let's work with this first. Hope we are making sense so far. Please type yes if you are following. Please type yes if you're following. Okay. This is what I'm sure this is important for work. I'm sure this is getting important for work because most of us work with Excel a lot at work. All right. Now let's move on. Okay. So we have created a data frame here, which we called Titanic, which means whatever we are calling the Titanic has 1,310 rows and it has 14 columns. That means there are 1,309 passengers on the people on the Titanic. Now let's move on. Now let's say what if we want to find, for example, now you notice here that what we simply called, it is loading up all the data. But most of the time, you don't want it to load up all the data. You just need an information from that data. So now, in order to find, say, the first 5 rows in your pandas, in your Excel sheet, all you need to do is, the name of the data is Titanic. Titanic. You simply type Titanic.head. All right. Then type Now you see here, you see that this Titanic.head is giving you the first 5 rows in your Excel sheet. Now most times when you are working with an Excel sheet, you don't want, well, imagine if you have 500,000 rows, which means every time you want to load your data, must you always be loading 500,000 rows? No, you may just want to see a sample of your data. Now if you want to see the first 5 rows of your data, just use the data label .head, which means that it will just copy, it will show you the first 5 rows, which means from there you can deduce if what you have done worked or if what you did not work. Now what if you wanted the first 10? Simply put 10 here inside the bracket. You see it has loaded the first 10. If you wanted the first 50, you say head 50, head 15. You see it has loaded the first 15. It started counting from 0. That's why it's showing 14 indexes. So it's 15. More like what we did with lists. Now what if you wanted to see the last 5? What if you wanted to see the last 5? Let's try that. Let's say Titanic dot tail. Now what this is showing us is the last 5 items. You see that the last item is showing not a number. That means no data is in the last row. So now what you have here is, this is the last 5. What if you wanted the last 10? Just say tail 10, or let's say tail 15, something like this. You see, it will load up the last set of data. So you can use head and tail. Head is to see the beginning of the data. Tail is to see the last part of the data. Okay, so I can move on. Nobody has asked any question. All right. The next thing we are looking at is, now what if you want to see the data types of all the data in your, what do they call it, in your data frame? So simply type Titanic.dtypes. Have you seen it? It's telling us that the class, passenger class, is a float. This is a float. Everything is a float because it has converted it into a float. It converted everything into a float. Float 64. Name is an object, which means it's a string. Sex is an object, which means it's a string. Kind of, is a character. It's a character field. So data type generally is object. It's an object data type. Now, let's quickly look at this. What if you had finished working and you want to export your Excel to another workbook? What if you want to export your Excel to another workbook? We simply do this. We simply say Titanic. That's the data frame that we have created. Titanic dot to Excel. Then we do this. We said we want to name it Titanic dot CSV. Then we simply say index. I'll tell you what this does. Equals false. Oh, I typed rubbish. To Excel rather. I didn't type correctly. Ooh. What is it telling me? Okay. Sorry. Dot to. Let's try this. CSV. Have you seen that? Now, if you want to save it as a CSV, you'll notice on the left side of my screen, a new file has been created called titanic.csv. If you look at where my mouse is, a new file has been created called titanic.csv. Let's change the name. Let's assume we call this new. Let's call this new file so that it becomes obvious. New file. It has created a new file called newfile.csv. Now, if you want to save your data as a CSV file, you need to name it Titanic, as your data frame name, dot to CSV. Then you name the file that you want to save it as. Then we now say index is equal to false. Now, index is equal to false. Let me show you what it means. Let's go to my file. Sorry, please. I want to open it so that we see exactly how it works. Now, this is the new file we just created. Now, let's say we open it. Have you seen that? Have you seen that I created a new file for us? From your data, from your project to an Excel file. For example, if you have finished working on your files and you have created a different data frame from data, you will simply need to how do I put it? You need to export it out of here. That's how it works, please. So now let's move on. Now let's say you want a brief summary of your data. You simply say titanic.info. We have not started use. Please be patient. We will use this in real life work. Now, data columns. We have 14 columns. This is just information regarding your data frame. It's telling you the type, not null, and the likes, memory usage, and things like that. It will become useful later on. Right now, it's not really useful information. Okay. Now let's say, okay, we looked at that. Okay. Please, so sorry. Now let's say, do we have we have something like age here. We have something like age. Now remember what we did earlier with our previous data type, where we said ages. We created a series object with ages. We can simply do the same thing here. We can say that we named it Titanic. We simply say Titanic dot the title is ages. Let me not put ages. Age. So it has created a series object for us called age. Now let's say age, or let's say ages. Sorry, please, I'm trying to not make a mistake. Then let's call the ages here. Ages.head. Remember I told you we don't need to call the entire data all the time. You see that ages.head is 29, 0.916, 2. Now they use 0.9167 because probably there's a child on board. Maybe there's a pregnant woman on board. And that's at the point of the ship sinking, the child was not born. Maybe the child was 8 months old and all that. Now, for your series object, you can find the shape. Let's look at it. Let's say Titanic. Ages. Dot shape. I think, sorry. What is it telling me? There's no ages here. It's age. Now, now this is telling us that this is a 1310 by nothing scale. This is more or less like a scalar because we just have ages row. But let's try something. Let's try Titanic itself. Dot shape. Okay, we have to call the row itself. So that won't work. Okay, now let's move on. We can also say the type. We can find the type of a particular column. We can say type, the same type, Titanic. Age. Panda, that means age is a series and not a data frame. Now let's say type Titanic. Now you see the difference. You see that when I said Titanic age, it's telling me that Titanic age is a series object, but not a data frame. But Titanic, okay. But Titanic itself is a data frame. Is a data frame. So what you have here is Titanic age is a series. Titanic itself is a data frame, which means that data frames are different and the operations we carry out on both are different. Okay, now let's say we want to create for, say, 2. Let's look at this. Let's look at type Titanic. Let's call this age. Please look at what I'm doing here. It's very, let's call this sex. Let's use sex. I've typo. Okay. Now you see this is a data frame. Now let me explain. Now what if I type this? Please look at what I'm doing here. Titanic. Then I use just one curly brace and say age, sex. Okay, we have to always. Okay, we have to always use 2 brackets. All right. So now when we create 2, this is uh, type Titanic age and sex, which means that this is showing us that this is a data frame. Now, there are other functions that we could look at. Remember our arithmetic operations or conditional statements where we have less than, greater than, equal to, and so on and so forth. We can also use those here. For example, we want to look at a situation whereby all the people that are, say, above a particular age, let's call the data name, let's call the variable name above 35 equals Titanic. Please, if you have any question, ask. Titanic. Titanic, where age is greater than 35. Please look at what I did here. Very important. So what we are saying here is that we are creating a new data frame. We are creating a new data frame where for only people whose age are greater than 35. Now, sorry, apologies. This should be Uh, uh, this should be square brackets. Okay. All right. Let's now call this guy. Ugh. Okay. Let's now call this. Let's say above 35. Now you see, we have 3,322 rows. That means we have 322 people that were above 35 on the Titanic. Now let me explain this simple piece of code. Now, I simply said create a new data frame from Titanic. Go to Titanic. Yeah? From Titanic, pick up Titanic. Then where the age is greater than 35. That means create a new data frame from Titanic. Then look at the same Titanic where age is greater than 35. Then let's look at the data type of above 35 itself. Type above 35. You see it's another data frame. You see it's another data frame. So what we simply did here is telling now we are telling pandas that okay, go to that data frame called Titanic. Inside Titanic, look for where the age is greater than 35 and make it a new data frame. Then assign that data frame to above 35. So most times you may want to look at, okay, for example, you want to look at the regions that made the most sales for your organization, where you made the most sales. You can just go to your data frame, then use that particular row, to to use that particular row to figure out that okay, this particular region sold more than, let's say, ₦1 million or ₦2 million, depending on what your use case is. Okay. Now you can also do something. You can also say Titanic age is greater than 35. You see here, what it's simply telling you is that everywhere that the age is greater than 35 will be shown as either true or false. If the person is older than 35, it will show true. If the person is less than 35 years, it will show false. Okay. Now let's look at the shape. Okay, above 35 dot shape. This is telling us that it's a 322 by 14 matrix. 322 by 14 matrix. Okay, now there's another thing. Now, what if you wanted to compare? Now, you wanted to compare if a particular passenger is in a particular cabin. Now, let's call Titanic again. Titanic dot head. Okay, now you notice we have what they call cabin. Okay, P class. Okay, now is it that you have 1, 2? Okay, let's check the first 50 so that we can get our data correctly. Okay, here you have 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Let me go to tail. Sorry, please, I'm trying to get a particular information so that I can explain back well. Sorry, tail. Okay, passenger class. If you see passenger class here, you see that some passengers are on 3, some passengers are on, let's see, head. You have some passengers. Somebody asked a question. If we have close to 1 million rows, that is what. Thank you for that question. If you have close to 1 million rows, always always use head and tail, otherwise you just flood it, although it will break at a point because it will not just keep showing 1 million rows. Always break your data into a series object, more or less like use df.head or df.tail, so that you can see the first 5. Well, if you want to see the first 50, use df.head 50 or use df.head 100, so that you see the first 100 out of that 1 million. Otherwise you will be seeing everything. That is where the df.head and df.tail comes into play. I use df.head a lot, especially most times when we are working on real life projects. We'll be testing our code before we push it up to the web, so that we can see exactly what the outcome will be, so that we don't just get errors anyhow. Most times when we get errors, we'll reset, we'll check the error, then go back and find where that error is, then correct it, then use print to check if that error is actually what caused that particular error. Hope I'm making sense. Hope I'm making sense. We are only 3. They used to say many are called but few are chosen. It's getting complicated. A lot of people are running away. It's very funny how people run away from when they start to see real work. Everybody wants to learn Python, but people don't want to put in the work. It's not very easy to learn it. But when you finally do, when you finally learn it, you now discover that a lot of things that you used to see as difficult working with Excel becomes very easy. Most of the things you see as difficult with Excel become very, very easy because you no longer have the headache of overthinking things. Excel becomes very easy. Now let's move on. Now, you see the data frame here. Now you notice that in passenger class, is either you are in class 1, first class, or second class, or third class, or fourth class, whatever it is. Now we want to know those passengers that are in either class 2 or class 3. Now let's see how we do that. Now we simply say, let's call this class underscore 2 underscore 2 underscore 3 equals, let's just call it this, equals Titanic. This is our data frame, curly brace. We are looking for Titanic, curly brace again, that's the, square bracket. We are looking for the class called passenger class. You see that the name here is called, let's use 5, but we don't have to scroll up. The name here is called P class. So we are looking for P class. The name must be the same as what is in the column rather. Now we are looking for P class. We are still inside here. Now there's a function in pandas called isin dot is in. You see, it's like English. Open brackets 2 3. Now let me explain this to you. Now there are times when you may have to excel. For example, those that are in finance, or not just finance, those that are in the professional field, we always do something called reconciliation. Sometimes you may be reconciling a particular product with another one, or maybe reconciling money in some cases. Now we may have to Excel sheet, maybe our bank statement and our bank statement and another statement, maybe from our accounts, that we want to check. Now we want to check if something is in another thing, kind of. I don't know if it makes sense. Now I want to find out if one thing is in another thing. Now, more or less like I'm saying, okay, go ahead, go to Titanic data frame. This does not mean go to Titanic data frame. This is saying create a new data frame from Titanic data frame. Look for the class P class inside the Titanic data frame. Then find out if it is in, that means if this P class, for example, if P class is 1, I don't expect to see it. If P class is 2, I expect to see it. If P class is 3, I expect to see it. Now let's try it out. Now let's call class 2 and 3. Now you see what just happened. It picked out everywhere where the P class is 2 and the P class is 3. Only first class passengers were left out. So it's saying we have 986 passengers in class 2 and class 3. Now let's find out. Let's change this. Let's see what happens. That means the balance should be only first class, which is 1. So let's call this P class 1 is 1 element. You see here, only passengers that are in first class are shown here. We have first class passengers, and we have second class, and we have third class. So what we saw earlier is second class and third class passengers. What we are seeing now is first class passengers only. And how did I get that? Most times I always prefer to use dot head, so that we don't get too much data flooding our screen. Okay, dot head will show only 5. Have you seen that? It's showing us only 5. Now let's move on. Now let's do something. Are you there? Now there is another way. Now there's another way. Now there are 2 things. Now when I was teaching you the if condition, I forgot to teach a particularly very important thing, a particularly very important, very critical thing that I forgot. I can't believe I forgot it. Now there's the and or. Now what if I wanted to find a particular condition that fits into 2 things? You know what we did was, if A is equal to B, do this. Abi, what if I want to find out if A is equal to 2 and also equal to 5? What do I do? Now in normal Python, please let's just break away. Let's go back to if condition. In normal Python, what you would have typed is if A equals, let's first declare A. Let's say A equals 5, then okay, then let's say if A equals to, if A is greater than 2, and Python is very simple. Instead of you write one special character, just type and English language, and A is greater than, is less than 6. Print I am right. Are you seeing that? Now you notice normally this should print, because A is greater than 2, obviously. A is 5, and A is also less than 6, which means it's correct. So it should print I am right. Have you seen that? It printed I am right. You see, I've added a new condition, which is AND condition. I'm saying if A is greater than 2 and A is less than 6, print I am right. Now let's try something. Let's assume if A is greater than 5 and 25 and A is less than 100. This will not print. Nothing will happen. Or let's just give it an else statement so that we'll see what happens. Else print I am wrong. Something like this. This is not written in stone, please. You see that it's printing I am wrong because A is greater than 25 and A is less than 100. What if I wanted it to be, it's either and or. Now, what if I wanted to be, if A is greater than 5 or less than, A is less than, let's say 2 points. It's supposed to print something. I am wrong. A is not greater than 5, and also A is not less than 2. Does it make any sense? A is not greater than 5 and it's also less than 2. So I have introduced 2 things now, and or. Let me just put them here, so that when I'm sharing this sheet, it will make more sense. Okay, so now this one, nothing is printed. It's still printing I am wrong. So you can play around this anyway. Please, if you have any question, we are just 3. You can unmute and ask. If you have any question, you can unmute and ask. Okay, now what if I wanted to do and or in in pandas? It's different. Now remember this code I wrote here, this piece of code I wrote here, where I said p class. If you see, is in 1 or is in 2 or is in 3, whatever. Now if I wanted to do it in a different way, this is how I would do it. I'll simply say, let's call this class 23 equals to Titanic. I'm saying create a new data frame from the data frame called Titanic. Then from the Titanic, look for a particular row, a particular column. The name of the column I'm looking for is, as usual, pre-class. That's the name of the column. Now, from that particular column, if that column is equal to, look for, now what I'm saying here is simple. I'm saying create a new data frame. From that data frame, create a new data frame called Titanic. If the P class is equal to 2, now in order to do and in pandas, you simply use this sign. Let me quickly confirm that I've and in pandas. Sorry, please, okay, it's and, it's just 1. I thought it was, I forgot whether it was 2 or 1. Okay, okay. So let's move on. Now, data camp open now. You see, I use this particular website a lot, Data Camp, because I am a data scientist actually. So I use pandas a lot. So I use this website a lot. You can't cram everything in coding. You keep learning every day. For example, Python 3.9 is out. There are a lot of new changes that come with it. A lot of new changes that we have to still go back and read. Okay, so let's move on. I think it's correct. It's actually correct. Now, if it is and, this is what you use. But if it is or, this is what you use. Did you see the sign I used? Now I simply say Titanic. Titanic, the same thing I did. Then in the same Titanic, look for this class, P class. Look for P class. Then look at where it is equal to. Look at where it is equal to 3. Remember, we are looking at people that are in class cabin 2 and cabin 3. We are looking for people that are in cabin 2 and cabin 3. Please mute yourself. Oh. Let's not jump in. We will eventually get to NumPy eventually anyway. So now, let me explain this piece of code here. Now, this is saying class 23 equals. Now, this is simply saying class 23 equals create from, if Titanic, then Titanic P class is equal to 2, and Titanic or not and or Titanic P class is equal to 3, create it as a data frame. Let's see if this works. It should not give us any error, definitely. So let's call this class 23. It's supposed to work. Hold on, please. Oh. Sorry. I apologize, please. I made a small technical error. Small one. It's a tiny one. There should be a curly brace here. Because we are creating a data frame which is Titanic from these two conditions. So if these two conditions are met is when, I even made plenty mistake. Jesus. Jesus. Sorry, please. I made slight typographical error. So this should be brackets. I will explain what I'm doing here. Let's remove this guy from here. This guy is not needed. This guy is not needed. Then let's close this out. Okay, should work now. Okay, let me explain what happened. The mistake I made was that I was calling the data frame 2 times. Now see what happened. Yeah. Now I have a P class in Titanic. Now I wanted to create a new data frame from Titanic, which is this. Now inside that data frame, what I'm looking for is I'm looking for Titanic P class where it is equal to 2, or Titanic P class where it is equal to 3. This sign means or. If you want to use and will always be 0, nothing. But this is or. Now this should work. Now let's run this code again. You see that it gives us the same answer as when we ran. Please, I always forget to add .head, so I can only give us 5. Okay, you see that it's only picking classes of 2 and classes of 3. This is mostly useful when you want to compare, when you want to pick out basic, certain things from your what do they call it, from your data. For example, if you want to look at if 2 things are in a particular data frame. For example, I may have 2 data frames. I want to find out if this data frame is in the other one. That's where we got to this. I forgot. Did I add heading to this one? Okay. Now, that's why I said is in. That's why I said is in. Please, very important. We will use this a lot in our work, because most of the things we are going to be dealing with are in Excel. We would allow our users to bring in Excel into the work. All right. I believe we are going slow and steady wins the race. We're almost there. We're almost done for today. All right. Let's take one more thing here before we end this class. Now, let's find out all those people whose the name of the people who are 35 and over. Remember what we did when we wanted to get the name of people who are 35 and over. So now we are going to introduce a new function called locate, or locate, whatever it is. Now we say adult names equals Titanic. That's the data we are using. Remember we named it at the beginning of the class. .lock. This is a new keyword in pandas. Then you curly brace. We need to create a new data frame called Titanic. .locate. We want it to locate where only we want it to give us only where the name, where the age, Titanic. Now we are going to locate age. Now this is what we want to do. Where the age is greater than, let's say 25, greater than 25 or 26, whatever the case is. Then what do we want? We want the name of that person. Hope we got that correctly, because I did not. Sorry, let's change all these things to .head. You know what .head does now, Abi? Okay, his name is in small letters. I wanted to confirm that it's in small letters. That doesn't give us an error. Now, what happens here is this. Now, we want to know all the adults whose age are greater than 20. We want to know their names. Now, we have assigned that as adult name. We simply type Shift Enter. Then we say adult names. Shift Enter. Hey, problem. It's too much. I always forget this. We need to put .head so that it gives us the first 5. So it has given us only the names of adults who are above 26 years. Does it make sense? Please say something. No, this is getting a bit complicated. Okay, thank you. So is the sign above your /, just above your what do they call it? enter key. I don't know how your keyboard is. Hope it's making sense. Please confirm. We are just four. On mic, on mute, answer. Okay. Now.
Yes, it is.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So we are getting there. Slow and steady wins the race. You notice here that we are still working. I said we are going to work with Visual Studio Code today, but I decided that we needed to learn this because when we get into real work, I don't want us to still keep going back and forth. But eventually, we'll come here when we start doing data analytics and machine learning. I guess I didn't tell you guys that we are going to be doing machine learning. All right, so okay, so we'll be doing machine learning. I'll just add it just to satisfy myself.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we'll do a bit of not in depth though, but a bit of machine learning. So now let's move on. Now, what if we wanted more than just now? What if we wanted to locate a particular set of columns, then a particular number of rows? We want a particular number of rows, then we want a particular number of columns. Now, what do? Now, there's a function in Python in Pandas called iloc. We simply say Titanic dot iloc. Have you seen the first one I use this lock? In this lock, let's try something. Let's try this. I don't know if it's working. I've never tried it anyway, but so that's where you learn. You always try new things. Let's try it. I think it should work. I don't know if Python, because from library I've never seen it. Let's call this sex. Let's say we want two things. Would it work? Oh, really? It works. Okay, see what this is. This lock, you can use it to pull more than one information. For example, this may be a different thing. This may be that you have been given a chart of details. Maybe you want to find at what point was Apple stock the highest. At what point was Apple stock the highest? You cannot say Titanic.maximum. .max. Where is it max? Then you get the name. You cannot say, we can do this. We can do this. Remember the .max function. Let's just try that. Have you seen it? The oldest person in the Titanic is Captain Mr. John Bertram. His sex is male. His name. His age is what? His name is this, and his sex is. Okay, let's still get the age. Let's get the age of the oldest person. This is just trial and error. It should work. Now, I'll tell you what I did here. Okay, the age is not a number. That means his age is not even stated. The oldest person is not stated. Why? Okay, now see what I did here. I'm using the same lock. I'm saying locate Titanic. Locate the person whose age is the maximum in the list. Then I want you to give me these details: his name, sex, and age. Let's check the data type. Let's say type adult names. This is a series. Have you seen that is a series? Adult name is a series. This gives us locate gives us a series. What if I wanted this to be an actual data frame? I cannot say Titanic. So let's try it. It should work. I think it should work. It didn't work. Okay. It didn't work. Okay, sorry. Let me move that. All right, I think it won't work. This is supposed to give us. Now let's use the iloc. Now I was talking about iloc. Now let's say Titanic dot ilocate. Now iloc you can use it to find more than one. You can use more than one criteria. For example, we may say we need row 9 to Remember what we did with lists. Remember what we did with lists. 9 to 25. Then we want you to give me, we want them to give us colon. Oh, we don't need this, sorry. We don't we don't need this, sorry, please. We don't need this. Then we need colon 2 to 5. Then we close it. Then we do shift enter. Now listen that it has given us the information from 9 to 25. Let's find out if our columns are correct. Remember, this is 0, 1, 2. So this is column 2. Then 2, 3, 4. This is column 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember what when we did it doesn't consider this 5. It stops at 4. It doesn't consider this 5. It will take from 2 to 4. Then this will take from 9 to 24. You see here, it took 9 to 24. It won't consider 25. Here, it took 2. It took 4. It won't consider 5. Hope it makes sense. Hope we are making sense. Okay, so basically what I said is this. We've used lock. We've used lock to locate. We've used lock to locate. We located a particular age, the maximum age, or maybe where the age is greater than 50 or whatever. Now, what we need from that particular script, we need the age, we need the sex and the name of those people, of the people involved. Now, what we did was we just did Titanic.locate Titanic age, the maximum of them, then bring out the name and sex of the person. Then we do this. Okay. Let me call it here. Sorry. Let me move this. Sorry, let me quickly move this. Let me move this down here. Then let me put the first one. Adult name. Okay, adult names. Now, see what this produced for us. It's telling us that the oldest person on the ship is Mr. John Benman Crafton. His sex is male. I think his age is 80. Then data type is an object. Now, we now said there's another function called iLocate. Now, iLocate simply means we are looking at a particular set of rows, then we are looking at a particular set of columns. So we are saying we are looking at row 9 to 25. It will give us from 9 to 24 and not 9 to 25. Then we are looking at the number of columns 2 to 5. It will give us 2 to 4 and not 2 to 5. Hope it makes sense now, Sean. Does it make sense? Okay, so once we run this, you see that it has given us the name, blah, 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 blah. We can even assign it to a value. We can say middle people. Let's call them middle people. Middle people equals, then we can now call middle people. Have you seen that? We can now export those middle people. We can now say pd dot to CSV. The CSV, we want to call it middle people dot CSV. Then we don't want index. So we say index equals false. Let's see if it works. Please work. No. Is that not what we used before? Where we. Oh, to underscore. Did I put the underscore? Sorry. Sorry, mistake. My bad, my bad, my bad. It's not PD I'm supposed to use. I'm supposed to call, what am I calling? Middle people. The middle people I wanted to call. I said PD. Let's call this middle people. Let's see if it will work. You see it has created middle people.csv. Let's go and look for it. Middle people is here. Let's see what it gives us. You see, we now have middle people. That means we now have a new CSV here called middle people. These are the middle people. So whatever you have done with pandas off there, you can just bring them, you can just export them, and you can make 1 million rows, just 5 rows. You can split by location. You can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. You can group by. There are so many functions that we will still look at, but so far so good. I think we are going to end today's class here. We've really done a lot. We did 1 hour 30 minutes, 1 hour straight, if I'm correct. So please, if you have any question whatsoever, please unmute and ask. Unmute, please, and ask. If you have any question, we are done for today. If you have any question, please unmute and ask.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
So I just have one question.
Okay, sir.
You said instead of displaying all the rows, we can use the head and tail.
Yes, sir.
Now, if we use head and tail for a particular function and we want to export to Excel, will it export everything, all the rows, or to export only the head and tail we created?
No, you are not. Okay, thank you for that question. You are using head to display your objects here for your own viewing purpose here because you are still working. You notice whenever I use head, I don't assign it to a variable. Have you noticed?
Okay, yes.
I just call the head, then it automatically prints the first 5 rows, isn't it? I don't even need to use print. It automatically prints the first 5 rows. Or .tail, it prints the last 5 rows. So it doesn't change your data frame. Whenever you are exporting to Excel, you are exporting your data frame itself.
Okay.
So any other question? Please, any other question? If you don't have any other question, unmute and say okay, so that we can end today's lecture. Then till next Saturday. Next Saturday will even be more interesting than today. I actually enjoyed today's class, personally, because I love data science. Please unmute and say okay, so that we can end today's class. Except, of course, you have a question.
Okay, but
we'll
keep our questions in the next class.
Okay, I think what we're going to do from the next class is that
we'll be asking during practice.
Okay, I think what we are going to do in the next class is that before we start the class, the first 15 minutes of the class, we'll take questions and answer, because I expect you guys to have practiced, so that you will say the challenges that you faced. Then I will answer those questions. Before we start the class, is that fine?
Very okay.
Okay, so subsequently we'll be
that's fine.
Okay, so we'll be taking 15 minutes of the first 15 minutes of our class to actually take questions and answers. Then after that 15 minutes, we can now continue with our class. All right, thank you guys. Like I said, many are called, but few are chosen. Python is not supposed to be for everybody anyway, because it gets complicated. There are a lot of moving parts. But the moment you master it, you become very good at it.
Please, I have a question on one of our past work.
Okay, sir, please go on.
I'm trying to write a program.
Oh, yes, wonderful.
That taking an input from the user.
What kind of input?
So, yes, I'm trying to an input in sense that it will ask the user that once the user entered any character that is less than 6, you tell the user that okay, is less than 6. The character must be greater than 6 and must not be more than 50 characters. Within 6 and 50. So I'm having challenges in trying to execute such.
You should not have a challenge.
But I've done something.
See what you're going to do for me. Type that particular question you just asked. Type it on send it to me via WhatsApp. Okay. So by next class, in the first 15 minutes, it's very simple. what you are supposed to use, I just explained it today, actually.
Okay.
Yes, you guys remember the AND function that I mentioned just now before we closed. So you can use an if condition and say if input, whatever value you have assigned to input, is greater than 6 and less than 50, do this or do that. There's an AND function you can use. It's simple. That program is very simple.
Okay, I will send you the question.
Just send me the question. I can solve it and drop in the group. It's very simple. It's not supposed to give you a headache at all. All right, people of the Most High God.
Thank you.
It's been a wonderful time with you guys, but we have to say bye-bye for today till next week.
Thanks.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a
Thank you.
wonderful.
All right, thank you.